No matter where you come from, no matter where you're going, here's a place where you can take comfort in the knowing that whether if you've come to stay a while or just passing through, this door is open to you. Come and let's be silent. Come and share a hug. Come, let's pray together. Come, love and be loved. From the blissed out to the turned out, from the pampered to the abused, this door is open to you. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. The God in us recognizes the God in you. The God in you. Whether you're black or white, gay or straight, Christian, Buddhist or Jew, this door is open to you. If there's some kind of trouble or pain you're going through, know that you are not alone and someone cares for you. As an individualization of divine point of view, this door is open to you. Oh, this door is open. This door right here, this door is open to you. Is open for you. This door is open to you. This door is open. I'm talking about this door. This door is open. I said this door is open to you. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. The God in us recognizes.
Come on in. This door is open to you. I heard somebody say this was the peanut gallery, so I'm not I'm not asking any questions. Welcome to each and every one of you this morning. And those of you that are in the building, would you turn and wave at our cameras and welcome those that are joining us from wherever you are. We want to welcome you and just know that to each and every one here today, this is a divine appointment because we allow it to be so. We always like to begin our time together in prayer. I invite you to open up your heart as we close our eyes and open this time in prayer. Together we greet this day, this time together with a spirit of gratitude. Anytime we enter into that dimension of our being that knows what it is to be grateful, full of the greatness, full of appreciation, full of recognition for the very gift that life is. We enter into that place today and we just bring it right here with us. Let it settle into our bones and into our breath. We let it just allow us to be fully present right here together as we open to the gifts that are available for us individually and collectively. We dedicate this time to a time of love, to being blessed, and to opening to the blessing that we already are. In the name and the nature of the great Spirit, so it is. Amen. You are such a beautiful group this morning. Thank you, each and every one, for being here. Fall is truly in the air. I'm not sure where our live streamers may be tuning in, but it is absolutely glorious around here. Nature just has a real way of reminding us of the impermanence of life, but also the tenacity, just the way that life always keeps showing up with new expressions of itself. Today we're in a third week of a book series, and we're going to be talking about what it is to be lost and what it is to know yourself in relationship to all the things that come up when we feel lost. Before we jump into that, we're going to invite somebody to come up here who is not lost, and that is Miss Kat Williams. Would you come on up, Kat? Kat also serves our community. She is a sergeant on the local sheriff's department, and so she's not here every Sunday, but when she is here, we really enjoy her being here. She's going to lead us in a song that you may want to sing along. It says, "I Stand for Love." Would you give her some love again? Kat Williams.
will stand, stand for love. I will stand, stand for love.
'Cause I know.
'Cause I know I can be strong for love. Yes, I know I can be strong for love.
Stand for peace.
I will stand, stand for peace. I will stand, stand for peace.
'Cause I know.
'Cause I know I can be strong for peace. 'Cause I know I can be strong for peace.
Play it, Richard Schulman. Yeah, I'm gonna stand for you.
I will stand,
Stand for you.
stand for you. I will stand, stand for you. 'Cause I know I can be strong for you. Yes, I know I can be strong for you.
Stand for love. Bring it down.
I will stand, stand for love.
Stand for
Yes, I
love.
will, yes, I will.
I will
Stand, stand for love. 'Cause I know I can be strong for love. Yes, I know I can be strong for love.
stand for love.
I will stand, stand for love. I will stand, stand for love. 'Cause I know I can be strong for love. Yes, I know I can be strong for love. Yes, I know I can be strong for love.
Oh, before you are seated, turn and welcome someone with a namaste greeting this morning. Welcome and thank each and every one of you for being here this beautiful morning. Thank you for being here. You may be seated. And again, we welcome our live streamers this morning. If you are here for the first time, if you raise your hands while you have your hand up, one of our ushers or greeters will find you, I believe. Come on up to the front row. If you raise your hand and lovingly point to where we saw some hands. Joan, Joan, there's one right here too. Just help us find our newcomers. Judy, there's one in that direction. If you want a little aerobics on Sunday morning, you could join this team, and it helps you spot the hands and run around to those that may be newcomers. Joan or Judy, there's one over on this side. Joan and Judy, there's some on that side. They said they're out of cards, and so just you can put your hand down. There's some in the foyer, I believe. These cards are lying around out in the foyer, but there's a red heart. If you attach that red heart to you, it allows us to more easily recognize that this is your first time and just extend a welcome to you. But it doesn't matter if this is your first time or if you call this your long-time spiritual community. We want to welcome each and every one of you. We want to highlight some announcements. I've asked Reverend Christy Corna, our associate minister, to help me remember some of these. The first thing we have coming up we want to announce
Yeah, is BIPOC Raw. If you've not experienced this, is a amazing platform for bridging understanding and love with racial separation. It's a way to really understand one another's cultures and come together in some real dialogue, and that is on Zoom. Season 3 premieres this Wednesday, the 19th. It's at 7:15 p.m. You can register online. If you have any questions about it, please feel free to see me following today's service. But we're so thrilled to have them back for Season 3 because it's important work in the world.
Yeah. Reverend Deborah O'Geist, she's actually speaking at the Unitarian Church today, so she'll be leading that. That's Wednesday, and then on Thursday, the 20th, we have on Zoom, I'll be leading what's called a new member orientation. Doesn't matter if it's your first time or if you've been coming a long time or if you just have a little curiosity. You can tune into this class, learn a little bit more about unity, and see if there's more you'd like to know about that.
Yeah. And then mark your calendars for the first Sunday in November, November 6th. We have our first in a very long time community town hall meeting where staff, board, all of us of Unity of the Blue Ridge come together and share some incredible happenings here, some plans, some ideas, and we get to hear some great conversation and inspiration about how our community is growing. So that's following the service on Sunday, November 6th.
Yeah, and at that particular meeting, that Sunday, one of the things we're going to be talking about is the possibility of going solar. And so, especially if that's near and dear to your heart, we've got a representative coming, so we'll be having a really important, exciting conversation. And then one other thing, our youth program, Reverend Gabby and Reverend Barbara Ann, would you please stand? The young people are staying for just a few extra moments this morning, and you'll know why in just a moment. But they just do a beautiful job of leading our Sunday school program. One of the things that they're going to be doing on October 30th, they've created opportunities we call mentor moments, where some of you come into Sunday school and for a few moments you share a little bit of something. The next one is on the 30th. And did you say that's a painting class with Barbara Holland?
No.
Pat DeBerkey. So one of our members who paints on October 30th is going to be sharing some painting activity with our children. So you don't want to miss that on the 30th. And a little bit later, they'll be heading out to take our children for a hike on the grounds today, a nature hike. But before that, there's one other announcement we wanted to highlight. Reverend Morgan Barclay, come on up, Morgan. He's a retired Unity minister who landed in this community, and I look at retired as like a tire, that it means you're just being retreaded and for your next way of rolling. And Morgan is so gracious. He leads different book groups, but one of the things that is near and dear to his heart by way of fire is having conversations around death and dying in a very conscious manner. And so he's going to be offering a 5-week series. Would you tell us just a little bit about that, Morgan?
Thank you. How many times have you retreaded me? I don't know. So I'm here to invite you to a 5 weeks of a conversational class I call Conscious Dying, a Pathway to a Peaceful Passing. Begins this Tuesday at 6 o'clock. And we'll have some Q&A afterwards on Wednesdays. So whether you're 44 or 84, these conversations will provide you with tools, insights, and wisdom to support your peaceful transition, support others, friends, and family in that transition. And if you're not planning on leaving this planet anytime recently, the deep understanding and conversation we have impacts your whole life. So much of the conversations are based upon the transition of my late wife, Cynthia, a hospice chaplain who planned every step of her final journey. This was the most powerful spiritual experience of my life. And I look forward to sharing this with you. And what makes this class, I think, different than there's a multitude of courses on this topic now, is this is based on actual experience. So registration information is available on the website, and I'll be out in the lobby, and I'll be glad to answer any questions or share the course outline. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Morgan, for sharing that. That truly is powerful.
Thank you, Morgan. And it's a conversation that we've, are often not invited to. So thank you for providing that space, that sacred space for that conversation. Also wanted to give a little shout out. We've got somebody in our community that has been here for years. You always see him. He's part of the Habitat team. He's either up on the roof, or he's fixing little cracks in the driveway, or he's walking around with a tool belt on, and that is Dick Allen. And I just want to give a shout out of happy birthday, happy 80th birthday to you, sir. Where are you? There you are.
Happy birthday, Dick. And right in front of you, Linda just celebrated 80 as well. It's an exciting time.
And Judy just had a birthday on Thursday, Dick's wife.
Give me that song, Richard, Gratitude. I'm going to ask you to stand. We have something exciting we get to experience this morning before we kind of go into our more regular. And I don't know of a more fitting song than this song by Karen Drucker. Actually, we don't have the lyrics, I don't think. Don't show the pictures yet, Acela. But it goes like this. Gratitude before me. Yes, we do. There we go. Gratitude behind me. Gratitude to the left of me. Gratitude to the right of me. Gratitude above me. Gratitude below me. Gratitude within me. Gratitude all around me. And I'm so thankful, so grateful. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. Sing it out. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. One more time. Gratitude before me. Gratitude behind me. Gratitude to the left of me. Gratitude to the right of me. Gratitude above me. Gratitude below me. Gratitude within me. Gratitude all around me. Sing it out. I'm so grateful. 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 Now, if you would just be seated and hold that space of gratitude. Richard, would you keep that song going? So why are we so grateful this morning? Well, life sometimes gives us opportunities to celebrate. And there's two things that you've been a part of. And many of you are aware. Some of you perhaps really weren't that aware, but you're a part of this. First thing I want to share with you is a picture of a blessing. We have had the opportunity to sponsor with Unity Worldwide Ministries. And several months ago, we said yes to blessing this young woman in Nigeria, Africa, who started watching Unity online back when COVID happened and dramatically and radically changed her life. She's a school teacher. She speaks several languages. She's already a leader in her area. And she said, I want to become a Unity minister. And so our church said, we will sponsor you. So I want you to know that you are sponsoring sponsoring her. Just as we made that announcement a while back. A person stepped up and donated $5,000 to that, to help sponsor that. So I just want to thank you for doing that. Another exciting relationship that we've had, if you'll show me the next slide, is with one of our own members, Megan Goshevsky. Megan, would you please come up? And if Michael and the children are here, would you all come up? Megan started her journey to become a minister. Come right on up front and center. Come on, Ian and Marcus and Michael. Hey, buddy, come on up. Hey, Michael. She started and felt the calling way back in 2001 when she was in Chicago, Illinois. Her then minister and mentor, Reverend Josette Waters, with the Center for Creative Living, began working with her. And then life happened. This happened. Which, as we all know, family, in case you didn't know that, is typically your first ministry, your greatest work, your greatest gift, your greatest calling. And so she took the time that she needed to be with her family. But during the quarantine of COVID, she began to feel that call and say, you know what, it's time. And so we partner with her and with Emerson Theological Seminary, and she's been on the path. And I'm excited to tell you that she is now the Reverend Megan Goshevsky. Congratulations, buddy. Congratulations, buddy. Congratulations. Megan, because I have had the pleasure of, welcome to part of the Runny Mascara Church. The pleasure of knowing you and knowing some about what you do. Megan has a very, very undeniable, distinct connection with Mary Magdalene and the energies. And so when I inquired within about your gift, it took a second to say, it's the rose, it's the Mary Magdalene energy. And so we acknowledge, I just want to thank you for the way that you have shown up. And if you'd like, I'd rather the congregation just hear a little bit from you about what you feel like, what are you going to be doing next?
Thank you all. I'm so grateful to be here, and I love this family so much. We have such an amazing, dynamic, spiritual family here, and I felt so supported and loved by all of you. Even when I sat up here and the hem fell out of my dress when I was giving a sermon one Sunday, everybody was like, it's okay. So this is just the most beautiful, beautiful place, and I'm just so honored to be a part of this family. I have a lot of things I want to do after I take a little break and nap. I'm going to take some naps over the next probably couple of weeks. But I have some classes that I'm planning on teaching. I would love to still talk on Sundays if I can, if I get that opportunity. So be looking for that. I am very much, as you see here, I have a tween and a teen. I have an almost 12-year-old who will be 12 in just 6 weeks. And then I have a almost 14-year-old who will be 14 in January. My heart is with our youth and teenagers specifically. So I am hoping to get something going, and I've been talking to the Unity Church out in Raleigh, who has a dynamic youth program for teenagers. I've been listening to some videos. I haven't even told you this. I've been listening to some videos already on YouTube, and I just think it would be a great opportunity. That was what kept me part of my spiritual growth, is the youth program at the church I grew up in. My mother, I grew up fundamentalist, and my mother woke up one day and was like, no. And so we went to a Methodist church, which was better, and and we that youth program and those people helped me to keep that spiritualness, that spiritual spark inside of me alive, and I want that for my boys. So we're going to do this journey together and figure out how that looks, and but I'm expecting big things. As more people come in, more kids are going to come with them. So Reverend Gabby and Reverend Barbara Ann, you guys are amazing. I'm just, whatever I can do to help, I just want to be here for you all. And as we grow and these children grow, just a lot of love. So that's it. Love. I love you all. Thank you.
So look forward to a new program for our teens beginning in January, a resurrection of our girl tribe, perhaps a brand new boy tribe, and some exciting things. And to Michael, to Marcus, and to Ian, we know that it has, I think the way she said this, Reverend Megan said, I owe so much to my husband Michael, to our sons for their support. They chipped away with laundry, washing dishes, vacuuming, and the other chores so that she could focus on her studies. It really does take a village. Would you rub your hands together to give them that blessing that says, we love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the divinity in you. To each of you, we love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the divinity in you. Congratulations, Megan. Reverend Megan. Thank you. Home. Thank you. All right, that's why we wanted our young people to stay a little bit longer. So now our young people get to head out and join the others, and they're going for a beautiful fall exploration on the grounds, around the grounds this morning. Cat Williams.
And I look into your eyes, well, somehow I'm not surprised. It's like I've known you all my life. The sweetest thing I've ever known. Place to rest and call my own. With all those years out of my own, well, I finally found I'm home. When you hold me in your arms with no malice or no harm, and all our hearts are open wide, there's no reason or want to hide. The sweetest place I've ever known, a place to rest, to know I'm not alone. With all these years out of my own, well, I finally found I'm home. The sweetest thing I've ever known, a place to rest on my own. With all these years out on my own, well, I finally found, yes, I finally found, oh, I finally found, I'm home.
Whoa. Oh, Cat Williams and our Unity Band, that was absolutely beautiful. They'll be back in a few minutes, but would you show them your love and appreciation again? Thank you. I finally found I'm home. So fitting to me, all of this is so fitting today as we are in the third week of a 7-week, every fall, the 1st of October, we kick off a 7-week study series. We select a book and we take ideas from it that we discuss on Sundays, and then there are study groups. As a matter of fact, a number of you last week said, I still want the book, so we have some books available, although you can also get it online. You can download it if you want it that way as well. We have books available, and we have 3 different Zoom groups that are still open if you want to dig in deeper and explore some of this. So there's some of that information out in the foyer. But this week, what we're talking about is the practice of being lost. And when I think about it, to me, it could not be more timely. It comes from a book by Barbara Brown Taylor, An Altar in the World. It's not a unity book, but makes it really rich because it helps you see things from a different perspective and decide what you believe and how this lands with you. It's very beautifully written, though, and very, very thought-provoking. And so today we delve into what she calls the wilderness, the practice of getting lost or being lost. And so have you ever been lost? I mean, really lost. How many of you remember life before a GPS? With maps. I remember one time as a sales rep, a road warrior rep in my young years, and trying to get around to Washington, D.C. And, I didn't know at the time, but that's intentionally hard to get to. Hello, I should have known that, but I didn't. But I kept seeing Welcome to Maryland signs, and I'm like, why do I keep... I got so lost. Have you ever truly been lost? Yeah. And what about this? Have you ever found yourself between jobs, between relationships? Found yourself between projects? Have you ever found yourself in that space of waiting? You or someone you dearly love had that doctor's appointment and those tests. And have you ever found yourself in that in-between space of awaiting results? Do you know what it feels like to be lost in those situations? And can you connect with how you felt when COVID first happened? How many of you felt, man, I'm lost, so we just ran out and bought toilet paper? I mean, you got to do something. And so let me do something. We just were so lost as a whole world this time we got to see. And it probably has not been that long when you may not have necessarily noticed it, but you were in that place of saying, gosh, I'm just at a loss for what to do. I'm at a loss for how to respond. I'm at a loss for where do I go from here. It's something that's a part of our life, of every life. It's a necessary part of life. And it happens in little times, little ways. It can be really fun if you're intentional. I actually took some time late Thursday afternoon, and my partner and I went out and we went for a walk, and we said, let's just get lost. I mean, not really lost, but let's just, just get lost in the moment and lost in the beauty of nature and give yourself permission. Or maybe you take this route all the time and you decide, you know what, I'm going to mix it up. I'm going to take a different route because it stimulates you. It just awakens your senses when you step out and you do that. And so there's a reason that we have this experience of being lost. Because the question is, what happens in the process? What goes on with our self-discovery? What do we discover in that process? You don't have to turn far to look for some examples. If you turn to the Christian scriptures or the Jewish scriptures, you will find many, many stories, many parables, many myths about a lost son, a prodigal son, a lost coin, a lost sheep. You'll read about people who lost their sight, they lost their ability to speak, they lost their possessions, they lost their family, they dealt with loss. You can also look at the Bhagavad Gita and other sacred texts. You can look at Arjuna and Lord Krishna. You can look at the Knights Templar. You can look at King Arthur and the Holy Grail. You can look at Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz. That there's a pattern, and the reason we recognize those patterns and the reason the teacher, the writer, the mythologist Joseph Campbell actually wrote a book titled A Hero with 1,000 Faces, and he coined a term that is now very popular. It's called the hero's journey. And it's this pattern that plays itself out in every good movie and in every life that has any real amount of years on it. Because in this journey of life, what we could call the hero's journey, there's always something that compels us out of our comfort zone, whether it's the child who goes from this stage to this stage. A child graduates from one to the other. We have rites of passage because we recognize this is an ending, and now I get to discover myself as I go to the new, as I arrive somewhere else. When my nephew was going to college, he was accepted. He was from Goldsboro, North Carolina, a small town in North Carolina. In his high school, he was the valedictorian. He had always done really well. He knew what it was to be successful, to do those things. And he was accepted into a couple of universities. One was smaller and one was large. And when I talked to him about it, he said, I could go to the one because it's very familiar and I know I'd do well there. I know I could be at the top. He said, because I'm really drawn to the other one because I've never been the little fish in a big fish bowl. And he opted to place himself in an environment where he would not be like he had always been. You see, life is always asking us to leave the familiar and to venture out into the void, to the unknown, where we experience some kind of what's called an initiation. We make some sort of discovery, and then we return back to our very own life. And yet we're not the same person. Now, sometimes life will literally call you way off somewhere, but sometimes it can happen in the matter of an hour. You leave home thinking everything is fine. You go to your meeting and you're coming back one night and you have a flat tire. And now here you are, nothing to change that tire with, and you're waiting in the dark, standing by your car, wondering if the next person who stops is going to help you or hurt you. The author shares a story like that and just talks about how in those, even the smallest moments sometimes of being lost, great things can happen. Many years ago, I grew up toward the eastern part of North Carolina, and I always loved to vacation on the coast of North Carolina. To me, it's just some of the most beautiful beach. And so a group of our friends got together. We rented an oceanfront house, and one of my friends came from the Midwest, and she had never seen an ocean, either the Atlantic nor the Pacific. So she was so excited, and we were all excited for her to see it. And so we arrived the first day, and oh my gosh, she was like a kid. She was so excited, and we were on the beach. And so she said, tomorrow morning, I'm going to be the first one up. I'm going to get up before the sun comes up because I want to be on the beach, and I want to see the sunrise. And so she did. By the time we got up, she was gone. And she stayed gone, and she stayed gone, and she stayed gone. We had breakfast, and we were there, and I'm like, man, she is just really enjoying herself. And so mid-morning, I get myself ready, and I'm walking down the beach, and I had walked a while, and all of a sudden, she comes running to me like, thank God, thank God. And I'm like, what's wrong? I thought she was stung by a stingray or somebody robbed her. I was like, what's wrong? She said, I'm lost. I'm like, you're lost? Well, you see, I grew up going to the beach, but if you didn't, if there's a lot of houses and you just run out on the beach and then you walk for a couple of miles and never thought to turn back and find your landmark, See, she had never been, she never thought of that. And so she just loved about the first 2 hours. And then she said, I started walking back and I thought, I don't have my phone. I don't know our address. I don't know anything. I don't have money. I don't have water. She said, I had to ask people for suntan lotion. She was shook, as we would say today. When she saw me, I mean, I could tell. I thought maybe somebody died. It was terrible. She was distraught, and so we went back to the house, and she got water and a little bit to eat, and she got a shower and went to bed. And it just really rattled her. But when she got up later, and we were sitting on the porch just looking, and she was quiet. She was typically a very reflective person. And I said, are you okay? And she said, I am. But she said, I had a radical self-encounter. Isn't that brilliant? I had a radical self-encounter. I think if being lost is about anything, it's about just that. It's the radical self-encounters that happen. And when we engage life with a willingness for every day to teach us something about ourselves, for every day to be an opportunity for self-discovery, because you see, in unity, when we talk about self, we realize that we're talking about the self. It's like Eckhart Tolle, the great author, said. He reached a point in his life, he was ready to commit suicide, and he said out loud, I cannot live with myself any longer. And he said, something in him said, who is me and who is this self? And he had a radical awakening where he realized that there was the personality of him, the ego of him. There was the part of him that could get stuck in ruts, the part of him that that liked things to be the way they were, the part of him that was really struggling in his life right now. And then there was a dimension of him, his self. In unity, we call this the Christ. Hinduism calls it the Atman. Don't let any word narrow it down for you. It's the divine spark. It's the one seed of the human that resides in all humans that grow us into the becoming of our own potential. He realized that there was more to him that could meet the eye. And so, if being lost is about anything, it's about the process of self-discovery. It's about coming to know yourself. Last week we talked about the importance of a physical body, the importance of being in this body, loving this body, and being on earth. There's a reason we have this experience. And we also are infinite spirit. And so it's that sacred union, the marriage of the two showing up. It's walking under the influence of your spirit and not under the bondage of an unillumined ego. You see, the ego is not a bad thing. We all need an ego to have some sense of self. The problem is when we put it in the driver's seat, when we forget that it's there to help us differentiate, it's there to help us engage, but it's not there to help us fight for survival only. We ask it to be under the leadership of our soul, of our spirit, so that all that we are is about expressing the fullness of our being. When we look at the concept of being lost, I want to very quickly look at 3 ideas. And that's our relationship with the known, our relationship with the unknown, and our relationship with presence. So your relationship with what's known and familiar, your relationship with what's unknown, the void, and your relationship with presence. The author begins this chapter with a real down-to-earth story. She says, when I first moved to the land where I live, I shared it with a herd of cows. The first thing I noticed about them was how they were pure white. The second thing I noticed was how predictable they were. With hundreds of acres at their disposal, they had worn narrow paths across those acres to their favorite watering holes, their shady spots, their clover patches. When they wanted to get from one place to another, they lined up, single file, all of them, and followed those same narrow tracks again and again and again. She said, soon I found myself following those same tracks on the land. Now she goes to talk about why that's important. It's the easiest route from A to B. It's safe. You know where you're walking. There's some common sense things about it. But the challenge is, so often we create those comfortable patterns, those ways of being, those routes, those thought patterns, those mindsets that served us at one time, and yet if we can't keep our relationship with them fresh, they lull us to sleep. She goes on to say, I'm convinced that it's normal behavior to do this, which means that something extra is needed to override it. I call that making the shift from default living to deliberate living. That's the word I'm looking for, deliberate living. But by default, when you think of the word default, I think of a computer or a phone that it's automatically what just shows up. But sometimes we forget another meaning of that word default is, for example, they lost the game by default. Default means loss by not showing up. You see, we experience a certain degree of loss in our life if we ever stop showing up. And so there's nothing wrong with those routines and those patterns. As a matter of fact, they're great. We need them. The question is, when it comes to the known and the familiar, can we hold them gently? This is my current understanding. This is the way I currently see it. I'm aware that this is a pattern that I like to take. And never to get in that place of taking things for granted, but to allow the familiar to be a true comfort, to allow the familiar to evoke a sense of gratitude and openness in us. I had a real lesson in this when I was 16 years old. My birthday's in July, and so the summer that I turned 16, I had saved up enough money to buy my brand new used Ford Pinto. Somebody say amen. It ran. And I was growing up in the South, I was so happy to get out of the tobacco field and get a real job. So that summer I had my own transportation and I found a job. And we lived in the country. I found a job. It took about a 20-minute drive, and I was a waitress in a big restaurant. Well, one morning I had an early shift. I was going to be there at 6 a.m. So I got up and I left home. And driving, you ever driven somewhere and when you got there, you're like, man, I don't even remember driving. You know, you just kind of go into autopilot. Well, I had done that, and when I realized where I was driving, I was in the ditch, which I don't recommend. So I had gone off the road and I was in the ditch. And the sun is just starting to come up, and I can't get the car out, but I get myself out of the car. I look around, and I'm out in the cornfields, but I see some lights. This is before cell phone times, and so I jogged down to the house where the lights were, and it was an old farmhouse. And I was so nervous, 16-year-old young girl, but I walk up to that house early in the morning, and I knock on the door, and I hear all this noise. And anyway, a little kid opens the door, and I said, I am in the ditch. Can I use your phone? And the little kid turns around and says, Mama, somebody wants to use our phone. And so a lady comes to the door, and I can see she's cooking. I can now smell the food. There's kids everywhere. And I immediately noticed that it wasn't very clean. It just wasn't very clean. And she said, come on in and use the phone. And so I was looking for the phone, and kids were running around. It was so chaotic. And as I was trying to get the phone, the lady said, where are the spoons and forks? You kids have had them in the yard again. You've had them in the yard playing with them. Go get them and bring them in and rinse them off so we can eat. And I'm thinking, my mother would kill us if we got her silverware and went in the yard. And she just said, rinse it off. My mother would have said, you better sterilize that stuff. So I'm noticing that as I'm quickly calling my father and said, Daddy, I'm in the ditch, come get me. So I get myself back to the car, he gets me out, and I get on to work. But now, what's the point of the story? Well, this is well over 40 years ago, and I still remember it. Why do I remember it? Because it made such an impression on me. When I got home that day, I said, Mom, thank you for having an organized house. Thank you for not letting us play with the silverware in the yard. She's like, what are you talking about? Things that you just take for granted. You see, there's something within us that if we can keep it fresh, you know, you say I do to a partner, but you really have to every day. Because if you don't keep it fresh, and I love you, and keep it alive, it's not going to work for you to say, honey, I told you 30 years ago. That's not going to work. And so keeping it, the thing about being lost, it's equally important to notice where you are, where you feel found, where you feel comfortable, where you feel seen, what is familiar, and to give thanks, but also to hold it lightly. Because I also realized that day that not everybody had a great breakfast and perhaps was sent to school with the kind of love that I was. Perhaps not everybody had the structure within a home that I never even, thought about. My friend from the Midwest, who that day when she said she had a radical self-encounter, she is a school teacher. And she said later that week, she said, what I have really been thinking about, she said, I realize that a lot of my students are lost. She said, having that experience and being lost for one morning on a beach made me realize, she said, I think I've always been a compassionate teacher, but there's a new kind of compassion that I can feel now that I couldn't even feel before. You see, that's the gift. If we can give thanks for the known places in our life. And then that leads us to the unknown. We're all going to have those places and those times where we don't know. You just don't know what the next step is and how to do. I was at one of those times in my life and I journaled this. Richard, would you give us the song? It said, losing your way is often the greatest entry point for finding yourself. And by the way, it's never one and done. Losing your way opens you to become the way. I went on and wrote, being lost brings about some sort of reaction or response. How you respond tells you a lot. It points you in the direction of your greatest calling. What comes up for you when you feel lost? Where do you turn when your usual reference points are no longer standing? What do you say to yourself? Where do you turn for comfort and direction and security? Can you allow yourself the freedom of being lost? Lean into the void, be honest, be real, and be emptied. And then be revealed. The presence is always here. D.E. Paulk wrote, I don't know is the required confession needed to be granted admission to the path of enlightenment and to the way of knowing. Not I don't know from a sense of resignation. I like to, when I find myself in this place, to say, I don't know. Holy Spirit, I don't know. But I always follow it up by saying, I don't yet know. We're told to ask, seek and find, ask and receive, knock and have doors open. And so it takes a lot of vulnerability, which means it takes a lot of honest heart to be able to say, I don't know. And to be willing to stay in that, making your best and highest choices as you are confronted with them and need to make them. But to be willing to say, I don't yet know what to do. And you know what? I'm going to open. I'm going to open to greater guidance. I'm going to open because there's a dance that takes place between the known and the unknown, and that is presence. That the presence is always available. And what I have learned in my life is when I don't know and I'm honest about it and I'm willing in it, that's when the guidance comes, the helping hand shows up, a word of encouragement. Sometimes it feels like a crumb on the trail of direction, but you do your best and you follow it, and knowing that presence will guide you. Rebecca Slonitz says, lost really has two distinct meanings. Losing things is about the familiar falling away. Getting lost is about the unfamiliar appearing. The last point I want to make is when we talk about the unknown, the known, and the presence. Many years ago, over 3,500 years ago in ancient Greece, people would travel to the temples and they wanted to see the oracle, they wanted to see the prophet, to have someone give them some guidance, a word of wisdom. But over the temple doors, there were 2 words that interpreted said, "Know thyself." That whatever you're seeking, it's really about this radical self-encounter. Self meaning the greater I am being revealed in you through your potential. I also learned when I lived in Hawaii that in the ancient Hawaiian temples, the heiaus, and even the temples today, they have words in the entrance of the temple. The words are ahuvale kenana huna. And translated, it means, let that which is unknown become known in me. Let that which is unknown become known in me. Perhaps the way it is said in the Christian text is, may I know the truth. Let me know the truth. Let me know my truth in this moment. And so this week is not so much about following a formula or any answers. This week is asking you, would you take a look at your relationship with being lost? What is your relationship with the familiar, with the unknown, and with the presence? And how is that calling you into some sort of radical self-encounter? We're going to take this into a time of meditative prayer, and I've chosen this song that says, I am opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the one. I am opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the one. I am opening. I am opening. I am the way. I am opening. I am opening. With your eyes closed, take a moment to give thanks for what feels supportive, the things that you count on. Take a moment to give thanks. And then just imagine if you were, in your mind's eye, see yourself stepping through a threshold, an arch of a doorway. And the moment that you step through, there is so much light. You quickly realize it's actually blinding light. You step through this luminous doorway, but you literally can't see. And we could call it, it's part of the human experience to feel lost, to know what it is to have lost our compass, that the ground underneath our feet has literally shaken or moved us. And so perhaps create a new relationship with that, what it means to be lost, to find comfort and compassion and allow that to spill over toward others who sometimes we don't recognize, but what's the matter is they're lost, we're lost. And then in your mind's eye, again, just begin to take a few steps and you see the light beginning to clear, and it's just so clear around you. And in your mind's eye, you see this beautiful dove. And you can't hardly believe it, but it's just coming down. It begins to hover, right? It's right in front of you, and there's no fear. There's a sense of awe. There's this realization that you are never without support, presence, comfort, guidance. That even in the places that are unknown, even in the dark valleys, even when you forget, because you will, the greater part of you always knows. And it is to that we surrender. So I am opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of I am. I am opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the one Spirit. I am opening, I am opening, I am the way, I am opening, I am opening, I am the way. Would you gently give thanks and then just open your eyes, wiggle your fingers and your toes and bring them back right here? 'Cause we are opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the one. We're opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the one. We are opening, we are opening, we are opening, we are opening. I am opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the one. I'm opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the one. I am opening, I am opening, I am opening, I am opening, I am opening. And if you feel so inclined, which brings the many back to the recognition of the one Spirit. How many of you would be willing to have a little fun and get lost this week? Not so lost we can't find you. But get lost in a project, get lost in making bread, get lost in whatever you want to get lost in a beautiful way, and allow yourself the experience of being lost. I hope you're enjoying this book series and that it's allowing you to take you deeper. We do have, again, 3 Zoom groups. I don't remember when they are, but there's information out in the foyer. If you want to find some information about that, there'll be someone that can help you with that. I want to take just an opportunity. Kat's got a beautiful song to lift your spirits and take us out of here, but I want to invite up one of our ushers and one of our prayer chaplains. It's two important things that we take this opportunity to acknowledge. Prayer is a huge part of unity. It's a huge part of this community. Back in the back, you'll see Tom bringing this up, but there's this wooden box that sits on that table as a physical place for you to put a prayer request if you'd like to do so. I also see people walk by from time to time and they stop and they put their hand on it. And that means I'm taking an opportunity to remember, to know the truth, that together we are in this and holding and knowing the truth. Not only do our prayer chaplains hold these prayers throughout the week, they hold them in confidence, but they're available after the service if you'd like to have one-on-one prayer. I always encourage people, don't wait until it's an oh my God prayer. Celebrate, do a prayer of gratitude. Be practiced with it so when it comes to the oh my Lords, you'll be well rehearsed. You'll be more comfortable with that. And then Jennifer Hastings, one of our board members, we are going to hold off a little bit longer from passing our offering baskets, but just like any other place, it does take our financial resources, our volunteer support, and this reminds us. So as this community, if it is a blessing in your life, then we ask you to consider return and giving what is yours to give. And so we acknowledge these gifts together. We give thanks for the gift of prayer, the gift of presence, the gift of substance. Most of all, we give thanks for the gift of our very life and what it means to live this out loud together. Thank you, Great Spirit, and so it is. Amen. Thank you, Tom and Jennifer. All right, Cat Williams. Cat Williams is going to kick us, I was going to say kick us out of here. She's going to prepare us with the song that says, don't ever let nobody drag your spirit down.
Everybody back at the wall. Single file. We got some blues. You might slip, you might slide, stumble and fall by the roadside. Well, don't ever let nobody drag your spirit down. Remember, we're walking up to heaven. Don't let nobody turn you around. Oh, come on, y'all. I walk with the rich. I walk with the poor, learn from everyone, that's what life is for. But don't ever let nobody drag your spirit down. Remember, we're walking up to heaven. Don't let nobody turn you around. Come on, Richard. Don't ever let nobody drag your spirit down. Yeah. Yes, I'm walking up to heaven. Won't let nobody turn me around. Here you go, I got something else to say. You may slip and you may slide, stumble and fall at the roadside, but don't ever let nobody drag your spirit down. Remember, we're walking up to heaven. Don't let nobody turn you around. Oh!
Don't ever let nobody drag your spirit down. Would you please remain standing with us? We're going to close with this prayer that is written by James Dillard Freeman. Acela, we're going to the prayer of protection. This prayer has been to the moon and back, and it goes like this. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Have a beautiful week of being lost and found. Kat, would you sing us out again?
You may slip and you may slide, stumble and fall at the roadside. But don't ever let nobody drag your spirit down.